The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're the She Squatchers. I'm Jen Cruz, your host, and I've got Tammy Trico with me. Hey, Tammy.
Hi, everybody.
Hey. And Jenna is not going to be joining us tonight. Boy, you just get 2 out of 3, I tell you. Lately, Tammy was making cookies, and then she was making cookies, and now she's back.
And now Jenna's making cookies.
Right? Well, at least I'm here. I'm here for you. Anyway, we have a special guest for you tonight. We've got a good guy. His name is Jim Free. He's from Minnesota, and he's coming to us to tell us about his interesting Bigfoot experiences at his property in Minnesota. So welcome to the show, Jim.
Hi, nice to meet you.
It's good to see you. Well, I met Jim at Bigfoot Days in Reamer, Minnesota this last summer. And he had some interesting stories to share. And I thought the listeners might be interested to hear more about it. So, Jim, please tell us a little bit about what's going on at your property.
At my property, it started in 2021. They started showing up, but the first time it showed up was 2020 in Grand Forks on 929 North in North Dakota. Going along at about 70 miles an hour, and I saw something in the headlights at night, about 10 o'clock. Had a lot of cars around me, and saw something, thought it was a coyote. Had really bright lights, and got closer, like disappeared, and then all of a sudden it was like it came out of the ground. It was odd, and I couldn't tell what it was. As I went by, it was probably about 5 feet from the car. And I looked at it. I tried to figure it out when I went by, but at first I noticed I couldn't find a head anywhere on either end, which didn't make any sense. And so then when I went by at that speed, I don't have a photographic memory or anything like that. But when I went by, even at that speed, I can tell you in detail what it looked like. Every hair, everything about it. But what it turned out to be was Bigfoot. He wasn't hit or nothing, but he was laying on his right side. And I seen 2 legs coming down, one sort of in front of the other one, but only 2. And what I thought was legs. And they're probably the size of your knee, just above your knee, that size, right before the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't see anything on the ground as far as a hoof, this, that, or whatever it might have been. And what was odd, it was both wrists for about 6-7 inches up all the way around. There was no hair. It was just skin, sort of a pale skin. The hair was rusty brown, really thick hair. A lot of hair. And what turns out to be the head a few days later, to figure it out, was like a gray colored, not like gray like being old, but a gray colored hair in the back. And there was like curls in it, so to speak. Well, when I went by, I usually turn around and always look at everything I see. And it took me like 8 to 10 miles to turn around. So then I finally turned around and went back. Never saw nothing ever again. And so I continued. I worked up in Pembina for a year. And I figured, well, it's the first one I seen and the last one I'll ever see. And so then I went to work and stuff, and then it was almost a week later, not quite, I went deer hunting in the fall of 2020 in November. And I've hunted there for 44 years, and it was open. It was an open day in the evening. Maybe had 20 minutes before daylight, or day, not dark, but dark out. And all of a sudden, I hear a deer blowing, and I counted. And I always count when they blow, how many times they blow, to see what they're blowing, or what they're saying. And it blew 25 times, and it never moved from the spot it was at. And so I was looking all over. About 10 minutes later, I noticed something by the bottom of a tree, which was probably 40 yards away. And I looked, and I know what I was looking at, but I wasn't sure what I was seeing, because what it looked like was a chimpanzee. And so excuse me, he was at the bottom of an oak tree. He was crouching down, and I could tell he was reaching forward, eating stuff off the ground. His arms were really long. It was black hair on his body. His face was a pale gray. And
His skin color, you mean, or the fur?
The fur was black. The skin color, just his face in the front here, there was no hair at all, and it was just all gray.
Okay.
Like a pale gray color on the skin.
Okay.
But no hair like here, all around the hair. And because I watched it probably for a total of 30 minutes, and I watched it once it got dark out in the moonlight. And when I was looking at it, where it was right next to an oak tree on my side. And when it was eating, I could see from the shoulders forward. And I couldn't figure out what I was seeing for sure, because there's no brush, there's no grass, there's no weeds, nothing in the way. So I picked up the binoculars, picked up the gun, trying to see the best I can with both. And after about 10 minutes, I realized that what I was seeing is the only thing I can figure out, he was in a portal, half in, half out. He was crouching down to the ground and eating, just reaching way out. Arms were, like I said, very, very long arms. And he was just eating away. And then I'd concentrate to try to see the back half of him, because he's crouching down by the ground. And once in a while, I'd get like a outline of him, almost like you see on a cartoon how they drink a magic potion, they disappear, but you can still see their form. And from his shoulders back, I could see the rest of them, but just make out hair. It looked gray, but make out hair, make out his body. He had a butt like a person. I could tell there was hair over the whole body. But when he'd lean forward and eat, I would see more of him. It was just like a cutoff line. I'd see more. And he'd lean back, I'd see less. And when he'd lean back, that just disappear, like if there's another tree there.
How far away was this from you?
40 yards.
40 yards. And I just want to make sure that Tammy heard you right. He thinks it was leaning out of a portal.
Yes. Yes. You heard me right.
I know. I was like,
right.
What? There's a portal on your property? What? We're going there when?
Yeah.
I want to go in the portals. That's why.
And I couldn't see. I don't know. I could see a portal on TV. You can look into whatever. I couldn't see anything like that. It was just like a straight line cut off in the air that he'd lean in and out. You'd see more and see less. And
what was he eating?
Well, what it turned out to be, he was eating a dried up cowpie manure.
Ew.
But I called my brother on the phone. I was with my brother for like 20 minutes. He was back at the house about half a mile away. And finally, he knew something was going on. So he came out there and he walked up. He was less than 100 yards. and I could still see in my scope in the moonlight. It was like a half hour later, and he's still eating. So when my brother got really close to him, he never seen him, but when he got probably 75 yards from him, he said, "Shine the flashlight on him." I shined the flashlight on it. It was gone. It didn't run. It didn't this, that. It was just gone in thin air. Well, at the same time when I did flashlight, which I didn't know, my sister that deer hunts with us was back at the house, and she went up by the barn and was standing by the barn looking across the field, and she seen a light come across the field, and she thought it was one of us with a flashlight or something. But then it got up by the house and got in about 20, 30 yards in front of her and went past her. Well, then she realized it's none of us. It was a orb. So then, yeah, we looked around, and I told my brother, I said, well, right exactly here. I mean, right to the spot. This is where he was eating. And we just shined on the ground, and sure enough, it flipped over, it was broke apart. And that's what he was eating.
Wow.
And
come all the way through a portal to have a cow pie. I don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound too tasty.
Mm-mm.
And I've walked back to that spot since then.
Yeah.
And walked to exactly where the portal was, of course, but close it. Well, I don't know how they work, what they do, but no, it didn't. After that, I didn't see anything. Well, then the following night, well, I saw that from my stand, so then I went to my sister's stand, someplace different. It's only about 400 yards away, but so I went to her stand, and it's in a pop-up blind, so I was on the ground, and I was there maybe about a half hour, and the woods are just really, you could hear a pin drop anywhere, and I didn't hear anything going on, nothing, and all of a sudden I heard 3 knocks, and at first I thought, no, that's the neighbor. They're probably building on the stand or this or that. It was a long ways away, and I never heard knocks before, just on TV and watching videos. But I recognized it and sort of blew it off. Well, then I sat there another couple minutes, and then it was like 100 yards closer, and then 3 knocks. Then I knew exactly what was going on. And so in this little hut that I'm in on the ground, it's a pull over clam. This is a one-man one, and got little peepholes around the sides. And they went from 200 yards to 20 yards within 10 seconds. No sound whatsoever of anything. And then they made 3 hits that close. So at this time, I can see that far in the woods, and I know they're there, and I can't see anything. And so then I looking and looking and looking. I can hear them walking, getting closer and closer. And then next thing I know, they're probably 10 feet from the stand, and they stop. Well, then one stayed there, and I still couldn't see anything. Then the other one went about 10 yards down the trail, and there's some grass, maybe about knee high, a little higher, a thick area. And I could see that one when it walked through the grass, laying over side to side with no breeze or anything. I could see it walking perfectly with the grass moving. So one went about 10 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other side, and then there for about 10, 15 minutes and making some growling sounds, moaning sounds. You could tell they weren't happy. So then I kept looking out. I didn't know at this time, everything is new to me, and that they can be invisible. And so I'm looking and I can hear them. Well, then finally, the one walks over to the other one, and I can hear every step they take really clear. And they got about 20 yards away, and there's a big tree there, and dead tree, and they scraped on that. And then they're making a growling sound, low pitch, very, very disturbed. You could tell that. And so then finally I could hear them walking away, and it's like, oh, good. Okay, they're leaving. And now it's getting close to dark. And when they got about 100 yards away was a swamp, and then I could hear them walking in the water in the swamp every step. Well, then when they're that far away, the one left out a long growl. He was not. He wasn't happy. So then I had the flashlight, went back to the house, watched all the way, nothing happened. And so after that one, that was my third one, doing the deer stands and the one on the highway in North Dakota. Very well, you know, that's all it. Well, then that weekend was over. I had to go back to work in North Dakota. And so I went back up there. And then the last week of the deer season, a week later, I ended up staying up there and hunting with the guy from work because the roads were too bad to get back. And I figured, well, what a better thing. Go someplace new, different. You know, I don't have to worry about it. So we went out hunting, and they put me on it was state land. It was in Minnesota, northwest corner. And they put me just in a field. It was probably 80 acres of CRP grass, knee high, waist high, and the rest surrounded by woods all the way around. So I walked down there, found the spot where he talked about where to sit. It was about 300 yards off the road. And 1 second. It was about 300 yards off the road. And I'm standing there looking around, and
I can tell you're having trouble with this one. It's very moving to you, huh? Yeah, it's okay. When you're ready.
every time that gets me. So then I was standing there and looking around. It started snowing out, you know, maybe an inch of snow on the ground. And then I noticed a deer across the field quite a ways. It was a buck. So I took a shot at it. I thought I would have had it, but I missed it. It was about 250 yards. And so then it ran on the edge and went on the edge, and I figured, well, if it comes my direction on the end of the field here, then, you know, I'll probably get a shot. And then the grass is shorter on top of the hill, right by me, 50 yards away, 40 yards. And about 10 minutes later, sure enough, straight across the field from me, here it came, walking right towards me. And it was walking towards me, and I checked out the land before I went and stood on the edge to watch for deer. And it came up to a certain part of the hill fairly close to me, 50 yards, 40 yards. And I figured he gets to that spot, the grass is shorter, and if he turns broadside or something, I'll have a really good shot. Well, he got up to the top of the hill, he turned broadside to me. And I had a 22-250, a target rifle, and leaning against a tree 40, 50 yards. And I shot once, and I hit him in the chest. And he hunched up. He went about 20 yards in bad shape and stood there, and he wobbled back and forth. And I knew he was going to tip over, but I just figured I'd finish him off. So got another round in him. I shot him in the back of the neck by the head. And then he went down. I mean, he was done. He was done the first time, but the second time he was done. So then I did that. Then I stood around for another, 15, 20 minutes, and I could see him laying there real easy. And I figured, I'll just wait a little bit, snowing out, you know, sort of nice just to stand here. And I had plenty of time to go get him. And so I went out there to get him, and he's gone. There's no blood, no hair, no nothing. And there's probably 2 inches of snow on the ground. So then I figured this can't be. And I looked around. And it was about 25 minutes later, I'm about ready to give up because I can't figure out where he went. And it was maybe 60, 70 yards from where I was standing now. But I was in grass high as my knees, and no longer grass in that area. And I know I looked many different directions in that little area, 20, 30 yards from me. There's no deer, there's no nothing, anything can see me real easy. And all of a sudden, right in front of me, 15 yards broadside, there stands a buck. Just like out of the blue. Well, I knew I only could shoot one deer, so then I figured, well, I can't shoot him. I have to make sure. I know my other one's dead. I just didn't find it. So I don't want to shoot another one, and then I got two of them. So then I stood there and I looked at him, and I was going to shoot him, and he put his head down on the ground, like sniffing, and then he put his nose in the air, smelling like he's looking for a doe. And the next thing I know, he looks up, he looks around, I look at his body. There's no indication of blood or a hit on his body at all. He's perfectly healthy. And then after we stood there probably 15 seconds looking at each other, once he saw me, then he just saw me. He looked a little surprised, but nothing really. And then he took a few steps and he took a couple hops into the woods. His tail was up, but just sort of getting off the field. And it's like, that's a healthy deer. There's nothing wrong with that deer. So I didn't shoot, so I went back looking for a while. And I finally found where I'd shot him, or he was laying there. Just a couple specks of blood, nothing more. And then after I found that, I tracked, and I kept on marking my areas where I walked, where I followed him. It turns out that the deer I saw was the one I shot that I let go. But
it was?
It was.
How did you figure that out?
I went back. I always take like toilet paper or something fluorescent with, or something bright. We always have, and that way you hang it in the woods, whatever the blood trail is, and you can sort of see which way they're going, or figure out where the trail is. Then you can look back to see where you walked. And he walked down the edge and then circled around a little bit and came over. And the blood trail was extremely light. I mean, if you cut your finger, you'll probably bleed more. Just a drop here and there, and it led right up to his tracks, the deer I seen. And I was like, there's no way that deer should have walked off the field. 2 shots. I mean, he was done. So, but he went off and was like, well, what the heck? He came back to life. I don't know what I was thinking. So I went back over and I stood on the edge of the woods, and 5 minutes I was there, and all of a sudden another buck comes out just to the side of me. This one's Spike. And I very well, I should take this one because probably won't see another one. So he came out 30 yards, 30, 40. He dropped almost the same place as the other one dropped. And I dropped him in one shot. I looked around for 5 minutes after that, and then I decided, well, I'll go gut him out. So I went and got him out. And all that went good and stuff. And I figured, well, it's snowing out. It's real, quiet. The snow's coming down slow. I'll just stand there, and see if I see anything for the heck of it. And when I was standing there, after I went back, I was there 5 minutes, 8 minutes. And all of a sudden, I smelled something really rancid. And I was thinking, I touched his hocks, his scent glands on his back legs or something, that he was real smelly or something, but it was almost like a skunk, but just a real raunchy smell. And it was there for 5, 6 seconds, and then it was gone. And I tried smelling my gloves, everything, and nothing was there. Well, then I stood there another 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10, maybe 10 minutes, and all of a sudden I had I don't know, not a thought, but I had something put into my head that I was being hunted.
I can tell this is very emotional for you. So you felt like you were being hunted?
Yes. and it was like the thought was put into my head. And so I grabbed all my stuff, headed for the road. And as I'm going for the road, I can't see anything. And it's daylight out yet. I can't see anything though. And I know I can feel his presence getting closer and closer. Don't know why it's so bothering me, but it does.
It's okay.
So that then as I'm going towards the road, he's closer and closer. And then he told me that I was going to kill me.
You felt like it was going to kill you? Yeah.
It shouldn't bother me anymore, but it does. So, so then he said he was going to.
So you're saying you're feeling like this is the mind speak, like the thoughts are being put into your head by the creature?
Definitely.
Yeah, by the
I
creature.
could,
Okay.
like, mind speak. I couldn't hear a voice or nothing, but I could tell. It was like I could read his mind.
Okay.
I don't know. So he was going to rip my head off. And I knew I was like 30 yards from the car. And I knew that was it. But when I was that close to the car, I said, I don't know where it came from at all, why I thought it, how I even said anything, but I said, I'm not here to hurt you or harm you in any way. And I said it 2 times. I still don't know how I said it, but I did. I wasn't even thinking that. It just came out. And when I said it the second time, all that fear, all that scared was gone, 100% gone. And the feeling, I had a tremendous feeling of, I don't know how they explain it. I don't know if you died and go to heaven and everything's so peaceful. But everything was very peaceful. I had no worries. I know what just happened. I remembered it all. It did not bother me one bit. And this whole time from, after shooting the deer and everything, come back to the car, and then I'm putting the stuff down on the ground. And at that point, I realized I totally forgot this. I was in a survival mode, I suppose. I don't know. But at that point, I reached up to take the gun off my shoulder, and it's like, I totally forgot I even had a gun there. It didn't even enter my mind that gun was there or anything. And so I got back to the car. I was maybe there about 10 minutes. And then the other guys I was hunting with, they came back with their car. And to this day, I've never told them what happened. But then I had that feeling of just tremendous, great feeling came over me. Never experienced anything in my life like it. Win the lottery, maybe. Otherwise, no, not even close. But so when I got back to the car, I put my gun away and everything. I said, well, I need to go get the deer. So I went out and got the deer. and walked down the field, no gun, no nothing. I wasn't scared one bit. I just felt unbelievable great. And when I was walking back, it was still snowing, but we had about 2 inches of light, fluffy snow on the ground. And when I was walking back, I'm looking to see if I could find his track anywhere, because he walked right in my track if he left tracks. And I could see a few spots where he did, but I couldn't make it out. It was too fluffy of a snow. But when I was dragging the deer back and I got to 30 yards away from the car, where I said, I'm not here to hurt or harm you in any way, right at that spot, as I'm dragging the deer back to the car, almost there, the trail splits. And I'm the only one out there. And I knew that was him. So then I followed his trail about 15, 20 yards and looking for a track. And I found one track.
I'm going to stop you right there because we need
Yep.
to go to our commercial break, and we'll come right back after the show, after the commercial break. So stay tuned,
Okay.
everybody. We'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. So we'll be at break now, and then but we can't hear it, so we're still on break. But everything goes on YouTube, as you remember. So yeah, you're doing good.
Good.
Are you getting your questions ready, Tammy? She's on mute.
Yes, I'm getting questions ready. I have questions, so but I'll wait until we get back.
Yeah, we're gonna let him finish telling the story.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I'm sure I've heard the stories before, but so I figured you would have questions. So
Right.
I'm sad my new headset didn't work out because it was way more comfy on my ears.
Yeah. Well, play around with it and see if maybe there's something that you can adjust on the computer or something. Maybe you have to click on that audio. I don't know. But I bet it was messing with your camera too, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's probably just overloading it.
Yeah.
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 Hiccups.
Now is not the time.
You are right. I'll probably go with a corded headset from now on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times that wireless stuff, very staticky interference.
Yeah.
Because Jenna tried to use her Bluetooth ones and she couldn't.
That's right. Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show. And hey, we're the She Squatchers. Won't you check us out online at shesquatchers.com? And then, hey, we're on YouTube, She Squatchers Official. Please come and subscribe and click the bell to be notified of any new videos we upload there. Also, we are on Facebook and Instagram. So please come like and follow us there for all what's going on in the moment on Facebook and Instagram at She Squatchers Official. So we're back to the show. I think we just lost our guest here. Something happened. So we'll just talk for a minute and hopefully he'll rejoin the call. But I will. Tammy, do you want to talk a little bit while I try to add him back in and see if that'll help?
Sure. Guess who got their red belt in kickboxing? It was me.
Tammy did.
Ooh,
Tammy did.
ooh. I'm a little
Good
excited.
job. Good job.
It's only black belt after this.
Only the black belt is left?
Yep. Almost there.
Dang it, my window is closed. There's no way I could kick Tammy's butt now.
I don't like to fight people if I don't have to, unless I'm sparring, because if I'm sparring with you, I'll beat your booty.
Right? No, I wouldn't. I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover.
I am less of a fighter because of kickboxing, actually.
Really?
Yes, it makes me much more calm as a person because of the fact that I know that I can means I don't have to try.
There you go.
So
That works. It works. It works. Let's see here. Getting everything set back up on my end here. We're still waiting for Jim to come back. Hopefully he finds his way back in. I did try to add him again. So, but so far, let's sum up what he shared with us. He saw one on the side of the road. So, you know, he started seeing one on the side of the road. Then he saw one during hunting and then hunting again. And then that's where it started. And eventually it went back to his own property where he lives. So I don't think he's gotten that far in the story yet, but, you know, we hear this a lot from Native people that, you know, Bigfoot chooses who sees them and who doesn't. So, this kind of goes along with he saw one and then he continued to see them elsewhere. So it's like it opened his awareness to such things, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're just discussing kind of what you shared with us, Jim. Hi, welcome back.
Hi. Yeah, I lost you
Welcome
there.
back. Yeah, you
Connection.
did. It's all right. I'm glad you made it back. We were kind of recapping what you shared with us, and right where you left off at the story was you had went back to get your deer, and you were bringing the deer back, and you were looking for the tracks and following, and then the path split. So then you started following its tracks. So that's kind of where we left off.
Okay. Yeah. I knew at this point I had no proof to this point that everything was going on was actually happening, because nobody believes it. I mean, it's like the Twilight Zone or something. So I knew I had to get a track. I had to get a picture. I had to get evidence of something. So I looked at the tracks and looked at and walked alongside of them, and I found one track that you can see fairly decent. But I got one track with my boot alongside of it, and
Okay.
I got that track. It went another 10 feet, 15 feet, and right in the middle of the field, the track ended. It didn't backtrack. It didn't jump. The tracks were just gone. And there was just snow up on the weed, just hanging there barely. Nothing's been touched. It was like it just vanished.
And so how far did you follow the tracks before they vanished?
It maybe went 15, 20 yards once the
Okay.
trail split.
Okay.
And then it vanished. Thin air. There was no more tracks anywhere.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so that all happened. And then when it got into the spring of 2021, a year later, I only have about 5 acres here. The river goes through it, but I go back there every once in a while. I went back there probably 10 times that summer, and I'd say a little over half the times I was being followed. And I knew that it was them. I was being followed by one. It was always one, never no more. It was always being followed, more curious than anything. And I talked to it, and but at this point, I know they're not leaving. So I talked to them, and I never get a response or nothing. The closest they probably came was about 30 yards. Come right to the edge of the brush, right next to the river. But as far as seeing nothing, I couldn't see anything. So that happened off and on all summer. And then we got into the spring of 2022. And then I'd have eight or 10 of them following me. And they'd follow me, always curious, nothing threatening or anything, but you could hear every step they took, you could hear it really plain. And you could tell something very heavy. And so this went on quite a bit. So then towards the end of 22, or during that, I figured, well, I'm going to start putting something out for them, see if they do anything or not. So the first thing that I left was a spoon, a golf ball, and a bobber. And I put it on a tree stump in the woods, no wind, nothing hits there. And it took a little over a month, and then the bobber disappeared. Well, squirrel, something could have took it too. So that disappeared. And then the spoon and the golf ball was there, and the golf ball had a Nike symbol on it. So I put the golf ball in the spoon on the stump, so the Nike symbol was straight up. So then after always going to the river and talking to them, and I know they're there, I can hear them walking, and I'm always talking to them all the time. And I go back to the spoon in the woods because I had to go across the river every time to get to where the spoon was. And I got there, it was like a month later. I checked it every week. The spoon, the golf ball was gone. They moved it. It was about 2 or 3 feet off the ground. They moved it about 5 feet over, and it's placed back on the ground exactly how it was on the tree stump, with the Nike symbol facing up yet. So then I said, well, I said, you guys have a sense of humor, I guess, don't you? You know, just trying to whatever. Never, no response, no nothing. So then I started leaving them little race cars, toy race cars on some rocks and stuff. That took about a month and a half, and then they started moving them. And when they'd move them, it wasn't very often, but when they'd move them to another position. The cars flipped over, or I always put the car with the wheels hanging over. They'd put it someplace else, but in a sort of a comical way, like messing with you or whatever. Oh, I said, oh, you guys have a sense of humor, huh? So that went off and on. I had a little toy animal, stuffed animal, a sheep. They never did nothing with that. And but as this went on all summer and everything, I could tell that they were trusting me more and more. Well, then I go out there with the camera, and I've took hundreds of pictures in the pitch blackness, just trying to catch something sometime. And I took a picture, and I was standing next to where I put the little red cards and everything. And when I took that picture, the flash came back at me in pitch blackness. It came back at me like 30, 40 cameras at one time are flashing. And I figured, oh, the phone screwed up, or the picture, you know, something's not right. Well, I looked through the pictures quick, didn't see nothing that night. And it was like 10, 11 that night. So then the next day I'm going through my pictures, and the one that flashed back at me was I don't know what you call him, Bigfoot or whatever. He was only standing up, crouching down a little bit, knee high, barely over knee high, a really small one, young one. It was completely white, and it was looking to the left. And when I took the picture, it was literally 2 feet in front of me. I never physically seen it. I just seen the bright flash come back at me. And but you can see the shape of its head, its nose, its mouth, where the eyes are. You can see where the hair, but the whole entire body is white. But what's so interesting about the picture is I had a red car and a green car on the rocks for him, and the red car was still there, the green one they took. But the red car, you could see it up on his shoulder. You could see it through his body, and it's on the other side, but you can see it, the red car, through his body. So like a spirit or a ghost or anything.
So you could see through him.
Yeah. Yep. I could pull it up here quick. Yeah, I could see through him really, really easy.
Okay. Well, they're not going to be able to see it on the radio, so if you could just keep telling the story.
All right. Okay. So then I had that picture. I still do. And now at this point, then the dog is chasing him at night. Now we're in the 2022 in the spring, and the dog is always chasing something from the house. They were hitting the house all winter, that summer, but they got into the winter. They're hitting the house, hitting it, hit it here, hit it there. Sometimes they'd hit it so hard, you would swear that a car just went right through the house, and there's not a scratch, there's nothing not going on out there.
How does your wife feel about that?
She knew I saw something. She knew what they were and stuff, and she don't want to go out there in the backyard and look with me, but you know, she believes me. She knows that that's what they are, or doing, because besides hitting that house, they would go on top of the house, and you could hear them on the roof. You could hear running across the roof, and you could hear the house squeaking as they went across. This went on 22, but then in the fall and now winter went on. And all the time the dog would chase him away, and then it'd be back and chase him away and come back. Well, then the next thing I know, that fall right before winter in 2022, I was down at the river and just across the bridge, 40 feet across the bridge, down my lab, she stood in front of me and her hair is standing up, and she took a stance and she was growling, which something she never does. And she was growling and she was not happy, and I could tell that she was protecting me. And she stood there and growled, and I couldn't see nothing. And then she walked, my dog left me, walked behind me, made a circle, came back and stood in front of me again, and then stood there and stood her ground and growled and wouldn't leave. So then I called her off of it, and so she came back with me. The river is only about 60 yards from the house. And I'm walking back to the house, and it's daylight out yet. And I get almost to the house, and I look down. My dog's always by my feet. I look back, and here she was laying down in the yard, just off the river. Her head was flat on the ground, paws in front of her, just like a dog would lay on the ground, but head flat on the ground. Her eyes weren't moving. I called her. Her eyes were like frozen. There's no movement, no nothing. She was like a statue. And I went closer to her. I said, "Come on, get up, let's go." And she wouldn't move or nothing, just laid there. And then I knew that they were doing something. So I said, okay, because I've talked to them a lot, even though I don't get stuff in return. I said, "Leave her up, that's enough." And I started walking, and she didn't come. And then the second time I said, I was a little more verbal, a little more mad. And I said, "That's my dog." I said, "She's not going to do nothing." I said, "You let her up right now." And when I said that, she jumped up and was happy as can be, like nothing ever happened. But since that date, she's no longer that tough dog. They're out there. She don't challenge them. When they're out there in the backyard, even now, she'll sit by my legs, tight against them, and she'll look up at them all the way around me, all over. But she won't challenge them. And so that went on in the 2023. By now, they're trusting me. I could tell they're doing my trust. And all this time in 2022, late 21, I would whistle and trying to get a response of some sort. Well, after whistling for almost a year, I couldn't physically hear it, but the tape recorder, my phone recorder, picked it up. One whistle back, the same way I whistled to them, and I'd go like, and that's all I got to do now. And I'll do that right now today, and they'll start coming. So I did that whistle, and now with doing that whistle, and they come every time. In the summertime, if I'm outside, even during the daytime, I can working on a car or something. Periodically, I'll hear one walking in the gravel or break a branch, and I always tell them, throw something in the river, to break a branch, do something so I know you're here. Because I said, "I know you're here." I said, "I can hear you walking." Well, then it took quite a few times of that. And then finally, I heard a branch break. And then another time during the daytime, right above my head, I heard a branch. I could hear a tree crack and getting close to breaking, really close to me. I can't find it, looking. Well, finally, I looked up about 20 feet up the tree, and here a branch about the size of your wrist, 8 feet long, was bouncing up and down. There's no wind, there's no breeze. And that branch was bouncing up and down. They snapped it off, and it fell into the river. And so then they had broke off a bigger branch that laid across the bridge. And a friend of mine said, "Well, maybe they don't want you going across the bridge to the other side. I don't know. So I left it there for a while, never crossed the bridge for quite a while. And I kept going back asking to do this or do that. And the one time I was there were scratches on the car. I'm thinking they did it. I don't know. It happened in the yard during the night. So comical. I was like chewing them out, saying, you know what? No more of this. Stop it. And after I did that, I came from about 80 yards away. They started talking really loud. It sounded like just really strange thing. And so they talked that time. And then I heard them about 2 months later. They talked again. I didn't ask them to, they just did. And then it sounded different. And then the last time I heard them talk was a month ago. I was down by the river, and every time when I walk away, I said, well, I'm going to go in the house now. I said, say something so I know you're there, or some sound. And that last time, a month ago, they talked in their language. One time, I don't know if you ever hear a raccoon being killed, make that squalling sound. The one time we were talking, and it was just like a raccoon, but there's other stuff tossed in there. And whenever they talk, it comes from maybe 30 yards away, just in the woods. Comes the exact same place every time. But between the whistling and since 21, I did hundreds of hours trying to communicate with them and everything. And so now until the whistle, but now this summer, honestly, if I whistle, and I usually do it on quiet nights so I can hear them coming in. If I whistle within 5 minutes, 2 minutes, they're coming up and I can hear them in the woods. The main place I hear them is in the river, walking up the river. And there's been times I've whistled and they're coming up the river. 20 minutes later, they're still coming up the river. A lot of them. But back in 2021, beginning of 22, I was outside by the doghouse, putting hay in the doghouse, and I had a flashlight I could see 5 feet with, just gonna put hay in her house. So I'm doing that, and I heard one, I know I did, at the end of the dog pen, which is 10 yards from me, but my light didn't shine for nothing. By this time, I'm sort of getting used to them, not as afraid as I was. And so then another one, I believe it was another one, went over neighbor's trailer that was real close to me too. Stepped on the trailer and banged it. And then one of the other pen was making noise, almost like they're letting me know that they're there. And so I went back in the house. I grabbed a bright flashlight. I walked to the edge of the river and I shined it around. Never seen nothing. And I said 3 words. And I said, who are you? And just that quick. I didn't see nothing. I heard them. It honestly sounded like 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. A tremendous army of them. All I heard was a march. How everyone would pick up a leg, and let's say there was 5,000, and everyone would hit the ground at the same time. It was a tremendous force, a power, and in a strange way, I could feel that. I could feel that power when they're doing that, and they're marching towards me, and I'm shining the light. I don't see nothing. They're getting to 50 yards, 40 yards, 30 yards, but now I'm starting to freeze up, I think, and this march was, the power behind it was unbelievable. And when they got just to the other side of the river, couldn't see them. When they got there with their march, it scared me. I go, hey! And I jumped back. And when I did that, it stopped. instantly stopped. And then after that, I stood there for a little bit. Then I heard just a couple of them walk through the woods and walk up the river. And the river runs by about 4 or 5 houses a half mile away. And when they walked away, every place has a dog, and that dog would go nuts when they were walking past, and then the next one, the next one, the next one. Yeah, so I could tell, everything I just heard is real because those dogs wouldn't be barking otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that march was, but it was very powerful march, very strong.
All right, Tammy, you got questions.
Well, the first one was, have you ever gone back to where you saw the one leading out of the portal to see if that portal was still there?
Yes, I have. Yeah, that was 2020, 21. I've been back many times. I walked to that exact spot and I look around, I back up, and nothing. I don't see nothing. Never have again. The only thing that's that I just have now, this past November, deer hunting, same place, but we're in from hunting in the woods, and my sister's there, I'm there, and we see lights in the woods, and there's nobody around for miles. Mm-hmm. It's very remote where we're at. Saw lights like on the ground, like shining up. Looking with the binoculars, illuminating trees, and they're probably some were a half mile apart, some were 300 yards apart. But there was 3 different ones that we could see, and they'd move around the woods. Well, then when we're standing there, 75 yards away over a hayfield, a light came on, a bright, very bright light. It was a bright light, but the light didn't shine out. It was like lit up inside, but it didn't shine anything, didn't light up anything. But the light looked like twice the size of a 5-gallon bucket. And it looked like a diamond on the outside. There's many angles to the glass, what it looked like, many different angles to it, and a very, very bright light. And that was on for like 5 seconds. And then when that went out, then 20 yards over, a red light, size of a softball, that lit up. And then that went out. But then I came home the following night. My sister was down there, and she freaked out. Didn't have the gun on her, and they met her in the swamp. The 3 lights.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
do you have any way for everybody to reach you if they wanted to contact you, if they had questions or anything?
Sure. They can reach me at JT Nature. jc@gmail.com.
Right. All right. That sounds good. We have probably time for one quick question and a quick answer, Tammy.
Okay.
All right. But quick question. Have you ever seen anything other than a Bigfoot? Like any other cryptids, any other experiences other than a Bigfoot?
Since I've lived here 27 years, it's very highly active with spirits. I don't know what that way. No, I've never seen, other than Bigfoot, I've never seen anything. I go in the yard, especially in the summertime. I go out there to take pictures. I'll get pictures of a blue orb, a white orb. And a lot of times that blue and white one are like chasing each other. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
When I was with Jim in person, I did a little test on him to see how sensitive he is, and he's very sensitive to energy.
I am.
Very sensitive.
Oh, there's the end of the show.
That's the end of the show. Thank you for joining us tonight, Jim. We really appreciate you sharing with us, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. And we'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.